for this therapy talks, well, I don't even know really where to start. We're going to talk about freedom. Freedom this week, it's kind of like, well, I was speaking to Susie about it the other day, and Susie, I'm sure, will say all about everything coming up. But it kind of guided us to the part of freedom and feeling like restricted, very restricted. Now, in my field of work, in my singing field of work, it's just been very unfair. I felt like things have been quite unfair, not quite unfair, very unfair. They're opening up stadiums, testing for, if it's okay, 60,000 people watching the football and 120,000 people doing, I can't remember what it was now. But anyway, like all of this sports stuff is allowed. That's been allowed by the government. And apparently, according to my dad, he phoned me this morning, and apparently everything from July the 19th is open, which is great news. So, it's not just me, my singing things. I mean, it's the industry, it's the people that are involved, it's the promoters and the agents and the stage staff and the PAs and everything that's associated with our industry and events, and the hot dog vans and the burger vans and, everything that makes a festival, which are outside, thousands of people, which we're meant to be allowed to do being outside, and okay, the restrictions. And the thing is, if it was one rule for everybody, it would be fairer. But it hasn't been like that. And I find I have a real problem with injustice or injustice. I don't really know the words, but I have a real problem when things are not equal. Because in my heart of hearts, I honestly believe it doesn't matter if you're a multi-millionaire or someone that's living off the street. It doesn't matter, because we are all equal. We are all on this planet. We all breathe the same air. We all want the same security and things. We are flipping one, right? And I don't care what that makes me sound like. I don't care if I sound like some kind of airy fairy floaty person. It doesn't bother me. I don't care, because to me, that's important. It's really important. And I don't feel like our industry is being treated as equals. We aren't, right? So it really gives me a problem. It just not in the restrictions. There's many problems I have. I'm not going to lie, but it's the equality. The most thing it boils down to is the equality and the restrictions and the freedom. It's restricting our freedoms. It's restricting what we can and can't do in a safe environment, which is kind of like
that means.
Exactly. So we kind of we're all experiencing this freedom or restrictions in different ways, in different areas of our lives. So for me, that's that. But for me, it's all about focus, because I can't focus on the negatives. I can't do it. Because if I do it, it's a slippery, dangerous slope of attraction of everything that starts spiraling into this negative wave in my life. And I choose not to focus on the negative, because I can't do anything about it. There's nothing I physically can do except for express my freedom of speech. There's another freedom. So all I can do is express how I feel, but not focus on the negatives. Try and focus on what I can do right here, right now. And it breaks my heart that a lot of my friends are really suffering mentally and physically, and like seriously suffering. And I can't do anything to help that. I can't. But all I can do is to help them stay what's important right now. In this moment, what do you need? What don't you have? What can you do to get what you need? Because communication is so important, and finding where it is that they're feeling these feelings, if there's anything that can change. Is it a fear? Is this the lack of freedom creating a fear inside them because of what might happen or what has happened, you know, all of these learned things that we've managed to learn in this last year about what's good and what's bad and what's safe and what isn't, who knows, right? So all of these learned behaviors, they've manifested into some kind of a pattern that's current. So is it real? Is it now? What is needed right now? Where are you feeling these feelings? And can they be moved? Can they be changed? Can they be swapped? Can they be moved around to focus? Is it to do with focus? There's so many things I want to say and so many things that want to come out my mouth, but I'm finding it hard to articulate. There's the word. I'm finding it hard to articulate. I've had a virus this week, and I had like a sore gland, and it went in my ear, and it's just left me feeling just a bit tired and brain not 100%. So bear with me. But so yeah, this is where we're coming from. So freedom, to me, the most pure freedom that I experienced is as a child, because when I was a child, we had no concept of, I had no concept of like fear from a certain age. After I learned these behaviors, yes, it was introduced. But right early on, oh gosh, I remember being like on holidays with my parents, and it was freedom, you know, being by the sea, the sound of the waves and the splashing, and even now as an adult, you know, I can go to the beach or be on a boat or somewhere, and if I shut my eyes, it doesn't matter how old I am or who I am or where I am. I could be in flipping Barbados or on Brighton Beach or anywhere in the world, and it's the same feeling because my eyes are closed, and it's the feelings that evoke inside me that warm, fuzzy, relaxed, happy, joyful feeling of just being at one with everything around me. So that for me is pure freedom. So I've actually said flipping a lot already. I'm going to talk, let's go Susie, because I spoke to you the other day, didn't I? Was it yesterday? I've lost track.
I don't remember. No, I think it was before yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's the same for me. And remember, we got to the subject of freedom because of me mentioning of this feeling trapped experience that I had, and I think many people experience this. And I was just mentioning to you earlier that I might sound not more negative, but more like down to earth, rather than the fairy with the magic wand. Although I do have that as well.
Of course.
But for me, it's good to be aware of what's going on, like to really, rather than just ignoring that you're feeling in a certain way, to name it and go through it and go beyond it and find the freedom behind. And I like the way you asked me during the conversation when you said, okay, because I said I feel trapped, and you said, well, then when did you feel free? And I've made a list, like I've noticed, I made that decision to look into moments during the day when I feel free, and I found quite a few examples, just like when I water the plants or when I work, because I'm doing some renovation in the house, and I love that. I'm very, very manual. So it's like I'm focused there, and then I don't see the time passing, and I'm just there doing that. And listening to the birds and playing with my kitties and spending time with my daughter. These are moments of freedom, I've noticed. And so I concluded that actually I feel free when my mind is not in the way. So basically freedom comes from when the mind, the chatting mind, the doubting mind, the talkative mind, the inner voice, the one that keeps talking about things and complaining about things is not there. So like we discussed, Danielle, freedom is a state within. But when we are overwhelmed with all kinds of restrictions, it's harder and harder to get there. That means we need to put an extra effort, and you need to have an extra friend, and to have a little extra love, and have that kindness around you that will remind you of these. Because we can easily get trapped into those things. And you mentioned the sea, and being a child, I grew up, I was born on the seaside, and these are my first memories, that smell and that soft touch of the sand on my feet when I was taking my first steps, and the sound of the sea, and the color of the sky, the sound of the wind, of the breeze of the sea. So all these indeed are moments of freedom. And I think as I was struggling with this feeling trapped, the freedom came from the realization that I have the choice not to feel that way. So I think freedom is choice. And when we don't have choice in certain areas, we still have the choice on how we want to feel inside, within. And even if it doesn't work on the spot, because there are feelings, and some things go away faster. And there, for people who are struggling with all kinds of restrictions and hardships and even diseases, it's not that easy to say, hey, you should just choose to feel healthy and happy now. But there are ways to get there. And even if you don't get to feel right away, just to know that you have the choice, that ultimately that choice is yours to feel free, to me is freedom. So
yeah, absolutely. And you were right, on days that you feel a bit trapped and a bit lost, that connection, just what you were saying, connection to someone that you can talk to, someone that can make you just to put things in perspective. I think that's what it is. It's perspective, and to be able to see that there is a different way, that there's a different angle that you can look at things from, to that wouldn't usually resolve. And asking is so powerful, asking your friends, asking people that can help you, asking the universe, asking God, asking whatever it may be that can help you to decide, to choose. So yeah, Kate, let's go straight to you, my darling.
Yeah, I mean, freedom is, how important freedom is to me. It's my number one sort of value, and that's why all my website, Selfish Freedom, is all about freedom, because for me it is about releasing what it is that's stopping you from feeling that feeling of freedom, which Susie was talking about, and you were talking about, that feeling that you get. It's there inside of you always, and yet it kind of gets covered up when we kind of close in on ourselves and we get trapped. I love the analogy of, like, you're born into this amazing house with all these rooms and everything else, and you end up living in a tiny little dark little place, sometimes you can get, and you end up, and that's it, and you've got a little cooker that you cook your food on, and you just live in this one little room, and you've got all this other space, and there's outside too. And the work that I do with people, I see it as opening up doors, cleaning the windows, opening the shutters, opening the windows, getting some fresh air in, and exploring outside a bit. Once you're comfortable inside, get it comfortable inside, and then start exploring out, start exploring life in a bit more as well, and start getting out of your comfort zone a bit. But you've got to get your comfort zone comfortable first. And also being okay when it's not comfortable, because as we say, life is always throwing stuff at us, and we've got to be able to be okay when we're not okay. And so freedom to me is that, how can I be okay when I'm not okay? How can I, when I lose it, how do I bring myself back? And how do I not beat myself up when I do it and don't do it right, or whatever it might be? It's all of those things. And so freedom, the opposite to freedom for me is control. And that was my way of dealing with stuff when I was a kid. Once I kind of lost that feeling of freedom and lost it, and kind of went inside myself and started controlling my emotions, trying to control what other people thought of me, constantly in other people's heads, thinking, what do they think of me, trying to please others, all this stuff where, like Susie was saying, your mind is kind of like full of thoughts about trying to control the world. And instead of just being free and open and in the moment and being as we are. So it's not control, and yet we're taught it's about control. It's about fighting stress and beating depression and all these sort of words that are all about trying to control it. And it's not about control. It's tuning into that feeling that you've already got, that inner feeling of strength and power and aliveness and peace too.
Yeah.
And once you can tune into that, it's there forever. It's yours always. And it's connected to everything else and everyone else. And so when you're around somebody that has that, is in control, not in control, but they feel in control because they're free. And that's the difference. You're not in control. You're not controlling things. You feel in control because you're free already. And that's the difference. And so, and when you know what it's like, when you're around somebody that just has that, you just know they're just being themselves. They're open to the moment, whatever's happening. Their emotions come and go, but they don't hold on to them and try and control them. They're just expressing themselves freely. Those people are like magnets, aren't they? You want to be with them because that feeling is catching and you can get it from them. And so the more we can all tune into that feeling, we're going to spread that around the world, you know. So for me, it's like that is the feeling that the more we tune into that and realize it's ours, we were born with it, it's there always, and everyone has it. And I see it in everyone, you know, no matter what they've done in the world, no matter who they are being right now.
Yeah.
They that. And when they tune into that life, they become better at just being that free, peaceful, joyful person, and everyone around them gets that benefit too. And so it just spreads. And so that's what I'm always looking for. That's that feeling of freedom. And for me, that feeling of freedom is kind of like a deep inner peace, really deep peace. It's just, there's not even a word for it because it's just so peaceful. There can't even be a word on it. You know, I can't put a word on it. And linked with an absolute joyful, intense aliveness, energy that comes with that. And that is when you say like we are one and this sort of thing, like when I'm in that place, I do feel at one with everything. And then I get that most when I'm in nature or by the sea. Like you say, I grew up by the sea too, so it's very powerful for me being by the sea, that it takes everything out of my head and it just dumps in the ocean and it just dilutes it, so it's meaningless, you know. So for me, being by the sea is like a really, really big anchor for me. You know, it's my screen on my phone, it's everything, you know, the sea for me. So
yeah,
there's that side. And then there's like the kind of negative of freedom, which I would also like to talk about at some point, which is like, when you find that freedom, how do you live there? Because there's so much choice, so many options, everything, you can do anything. Then what do you do? Then you can start getting thoughts about, well, which is the right thing to choose? Now I've got all this choice, and that can be quite stressful as well. So there's this balance too.
Yeah, that's really true, actually, because with more choice comes more stress, and my dog going to get out.
There's responsibility, isn't there? Suddenly you've got to choose. If you have no choice, you just get on with life. But once there's a choice, like, oh, which is the right choice now? And so it's being able to tune into yourself and knowing what that is. I was talking to a friend last night. She's got all these options. And it's kind of like overwhelming, like all these choices. I could do anything now.
Amazing, right?
What do I do? What's the right choice? Like, well, there is no answer because they're all good. They're all good. And that's the problem. They're all good options. You've got to pick one and kind of decide to try it and date it for a while. You don't have to marry it. Just date it and see what happens.
I love that. I always say, what a lovely problem to have, right?
Kind of is, but it's still a problem, isn't it?
It is, but it's a lovely problem.
A lot of stress, like the pressure of choosing. There's tension and stress with that. That's what stress is. It's tension, isn't it?
I think a lot of that can be based on what other people think, like what other people think that you should do. So should you, you know, I think if you go from your heart, what you actually truly really want, and disregard what everyone else thinks that you should be doing, I think that the answer does whittle it down quite a lot. I think I like with weddings and stuff like that, you know, you get on all the parents and the grandparents and whatever is involved, and they all have their idea of what they should do. You know, it's a lovely choice to have, but Is it what you really want? Is that what you want? Because if it's not, then that's the choice that you make, is for choose you. That's it. Choose you. I think that's so important. And like the word, like I was going to say before as well, just backtracking a bit, the word freedom itself is a beautiful word, isn't it? Isn't it a beautiful freedom? It just rings. It's like, it's an open, beautiful word. And it is what it says it is in the tin, doesn't it?
No, I think it's one of the core values of human beings. I mean, people are really willing to die for freedom, for the freedom of others. So, it's a very important value. But coming to what you were saying, Danielle, and you, Kate, what in regards to the choices, that's why it's important, the work we do in NLP to connect to your true value, to see the why behind, and to go on and see if you're going towards something or you will try to move away from something. So the choice comes when you're connected with what truly matters to you, and then it's easy because it's just being carried by that. So that's an aspect of freedom, I think.
It's true.
And also to be connected with that and to feel entitled and to follow that intuition and that call, because we all have a call. That's at least what I have noticed from my experience and working with others. We all have a calling of some sort, and it has to come from there, deep within. There's no word to describe, that sense of freedom. Else, when we work out of from our worries and fears and or thinking of what others think of us, or this need to success, this modern need to succeed, or then of course we feel stressed about making a choice. But I wanted to add something here, because you mentioned the control, and you mentioned this need to control things, Kate, and that brought to mind, because I like to bring the conversation down to earth, like what we're dealing with, rather than being in theory.
Yeah.
And what's going on today, and that many people may recognize themselves in that, is this permanent exposure to these fearful thoughts and this menacing pandemic situation of whatever it is, because we still don't know much about it. And I was reflecting on that yesterday, and I was thinking, there's so much emphasis that is being put on the danger of this, but there's so little that is being told by our, let's say, politicians or governments to talk about what they plan to do for us to come out of that, rather than vaccination. Okay, we got that point. But everything else, our lives have been messed up for many people in so many ways. We are probably one of the most lucky ones. We still have something going, but there's so many people that have been affected financially, psychologically, physically. They couldn't treat their problems, their health problems. So there's lots of stuff going on. And I haven't heard yet the government saying, we have a plan for that. It's like we do the vaccine and then everything should be okay. We should stop the circulation of that, and then everything goes back to normal. There is no normal. There is side effects. There are damages, so collateral damages to everything that has been done for the past year and a half. And this is where people might feel trapped. And this is where we had the conversation with Danielle, saying we should not expect our politicians to think of that, because we don't know whether they will do something about it or not. So we don't know if this way is good or is not. So you can only count on yourself and on your choices. So this is where the self-work is so important, because you can choose, regardless of what's going on out there, that state of freedom. Even if you feel just 10% of it is better than not feeling it at all. So I think this is an important point for me, because we are bombarded constantly with the new variant and the new case and these new restrictions, and it's psychologically, we're not meant to live this way. No. I mean, humans have not been, okay, there've been pandemics and people died and life went on, and there've been wars and people died and life went on, and we destroy and we rebuild. This is what it is. But to be isolated and restricted to this point, I don't think it ever happened in the history of humankind. So we have to acknowledge that this is something new, and that we have to really get ourselves the tools that we need and to work, or not to let ourselves be carried by it, to oppose a little bit. And I just want to read one quote I was telling you from Mircea Eliade. He's one of my favorite writers. He's of a Romanian origin, but he's international. He's a philosopher, and he studied the history of religions, and he wrote actually the book, The History of Religions. It's a fantastic man. And when they were dealing with war and communism, he said, he wrote something like that. He said, I can't let myself be possessed by an event, no matter how current and catastrophic it may be. I think about it. I'm sorry, I'm translating directly because it's not in English. I'm thinking about it for an hour or two. I try to understand it, to adjust to it, or not to adjust to it. So I kind of make that choice. But then I move on and deal with something else. At least I have this freedom, as much freedom as I am allowed to enjoy, the freedom to choose the topic of reflection, conversation, or humor.
Wow. Perfect. Perfect.
So I think it is normal and natural to reflect a little bit on what's going on. We have to use our brains.
Yeah.
There is something going on which is completely new, and we might go the right way, we might not. Reflect on it for a moment, and then, just move on to something else, and choose to laugh about it, choose to joke about it, choose to feel free to discuss about it. I don't like when somebody tries to close my mouth and say, you should not talk about that. You should not talk about vaccines. You should not talk about this. No, let me talk. At least I express, and then go on with your life for the rest of the day,
Perfect. And do you know what? Anyone that's stuck in a fearful state, and anyone that feels trapped or restricted, and there's many, many people that are going through this, I just invite you, like I did with Susie the other day, is to interrupt that thought and just to ask yourself, when was the last time you felt free? And at first you might think to yourself, oh, I don't remember because you're in such a dark place. But if you just meditate on that, just think about it a little bit, shut your eyes. When was the last time you felt really flipping free? When was that? Because your subconscious mind, which is not conscious, your conscious is what's dealing with you right now and giving you this protection, this fear that you're living, this cave that you're living in. But your subconscious mind has got all of your histories all there. It's all there. So allow it, and just just ask yourself that one question. When you have the answer, the last time that you felt truly free, just tune into it. Tune into that picture, where you were and what you were doing, what you were wearing, what you were seeing, and what you were smelling, what was all around you, the feeling of the clothes on your back, on the hair on your face. Where in the body was this feeling? Where did you feel it the most? Is it a warmth? Is it a colour? Is there a shape to it? Is it in your chest? Is it where your heart is? Is it a little bit lower? Is it in your gut? Where's that feeling? What's the feeling that's invoked inside of you when you think of that freedom? Because it's a feeling. And that feeling, wherever that may be, just make it even bigger than that, and really tune into that feeling. Get into that place. Get to where you were, how you felt, everything about that moment, that beautiful, perfect moment. If you just tune into that and allow it, just a little bit of light into the dark, let it chip away, because the only thing that does overcome that dark will be the light. And that's yours to choose. That's yours. And yes, it does take some work, because you may be comfortable in feeling uncomfortable, but then that took work to get there too. So if it's worth it, you're worth it. Just know that you're worth it. And treat yourself how you treat your best friend. Like, what would you say to them? What would you say to your best friend if they were in this darkest place and that's theirs? What would you say? How would you help them? You can just be there. Just give them a cuddle. You're there for them, yes. But to really help them, they have to help themselves. And that is to allow that light in And we all have it. Every single person on this planet, every being on this planet, every animal, everything has a moment that they are just flipping free and happy. And get that moment and make it real, make it now, and just tune in. So that's how I feel.
That's beautiful. And when the more you do that, the more you notice these little micro moments through the day, because the important thing is to realize that all these feelings are transitory. They don't last if you don't keep thinking the same thought. So the more you can interrupt that and focus on that other feeling, and then notice it. Well, like I was out chopping wood yesterday with the big axe, and it was. But I was actually really loving doing it. The sound of when you get it right and the log just splits, it was just the most wonderful feeling. And I was in that, I was using my body, I wasn't really thinking anything. I was just, you have to just be the axe and flow with it to make it, to do it sweetly, So that was a wonderful moment. It was hard work, but I felt that feeling of total flow, and which is freedom to me. It's like a flowing feeling for me. And so when you start noticing it in those little micro moments, you realize then that the stress you're feeling, the overwhelm, the depression, the anxiety, whatever it is, it's not there all the time. And then the moment you realize it's not there always throughout the day, you think, well, yeah, so this isn't me. It's just something that's happening in me, and it flows and it moves. And the more you free up that feeling, it can just flow through and out, because we all get these feelings. And it is about letting them flow and feeling. And you mentioned connection as well, because that it is connecting, because most people that I work with are kind of stuck up here. Most of them are like overthinkers, stuck up in their heads, and there's nothing happening. They just don't feel anything below the neck. It's all up here, and they're just so overwhelmed with what's going on up here. There's no feeling, like you say, follow your heart. Well, they don't feel their heart. They don't know. They've no idea what's going on in there, because they can't connect with that. They've disconnected so far because they're trying to control these feelings. And the only way to control them eventually is to numb them out completely. So what do you do when you're completely numb? If you can't feel what that freedom feeling's like, what do you do if there's no feeling? And so then you've got to learning to relax is like a key thing. And the easiest way is like tuning into your breathing. What's happening? Can you feel anything that's happening with your breathing? And that's what we all use a lot, don't we? Because you carry it with you everywhere. You can tune into that at least. Yeah. So learning to relax is often the first step that a lot of people just don't know how to do, because they're so in their heads, just constantly sort of anxious thoughts going on. And then there's the other thing, which is then once you can start feeling, then what do you do with these feelings? Because they're a bit scary. You don't want to go in there. You don't want to open up that door that you've had closed all these years. All these boxes you've got up in the attic that are starting to go a bit smelly and dusty, and the mice have moved in, and you really don't want to go up there. Well, that's scary too. So you need someone, maybe some help with going up there, someone with a torch that's been there before, and it doesn't matter, and just wipe everything off and make it a bit easier for you to sort of lift up the lid and have a little peek inside, or maybe just read what's written on the lid. Maybe that's all you want to do for a session, so that's what we do, isn't it? We're doing that with people. We're helping them, going in there with them, because we're not taking our baggage in there with them. You've got enough baggage of your own. So I'm coming in, I'm not bringing anything in there, and I'm just here to help and support you as you make that journey and start sorting through those boxes and starting to feel those old feelings that have been trapped inside, that are stuck, and you're stuck in there with them. And that younger you is still there trapped. And when you can open up that box or open the door, and they can come out and go and play in the sun with you, then that's freedom, isn't it? Because they're a part of you, and they're stuck and they're trapped, and the voices in your head are just them crying in the darkness saying, I want to come home, So it's about welcoming all these scary feelings that maybe we've numbed out completely, and trying to get even in touch with them can be a process. But also, like you say as well, it's self-care. not being hard on yourself, because this is how we adapted to survive. We had to do it. It was the only way we could survive, especially as children. We have no power. We feel we have that freedom until we don't, and then suddenly we lose that feeling and that touch with it. And so reminding ourselves, as you just beautifully expressed, remind yourself of that feeling, and when you get in touch with that, then that's there for you it's kind of like something you can almost put it down on the floor and stand on it. Now you can be taller, you can be freer, just by using that ability that we all have to feel free at any time when we tune in. So those little micro moments are really cool, to start noticing them and realize that whatever you're stuck in, you're not stuck, not really. You feel stuck because it feels like it's controlling you, but you can feel back in control again by releasing things. And that's available to everybody. And it kind of really annoys me that we just don't get taught this stuff. Why weren't we all taught this at school? How to know what's going on inside of you, how to feel your feelings, how to deal with painful things that happen, because we all have it. I mean, this is what school should be teaching us. Maybe they do it now. I don't know. I'm too old to know now.
Well, or at least to have some optional, because maybe not everybody, not everybody that's really interested. There's some people that are more scientists and they like to work with, build things, and they don't like to look. So it's not everybody that's the same and interested, but at least to give some options, like some kids who are interested to go on and explore that. But you gave me, Kate, you told about chopping wood. There is in yoga, we have this, it's a wonderful exercise. And now hearing you, and by the way, I sanded my staircase yesterday, and it's such a beautiful feeling. I'm telling you, to see how it takes shape, and it's the wood is fantastic. It's alive, and I like the ability to see the result showing as you go. So as you do it, things improve, and it was very rewarding for my mind, because it was such a metaphor for my mind. And that reminded me of a Zen. It was not a Zen story, but somebody who attended a Zen monastery, and they were cleaning the floor there every day as part of the routine, as the discipline. And they were told to do that as if they were cleaning their mind. So I even taught that to my girl. And even for me now, when I clean the house, I wipe the floors, I'm thinking I'm cleaning my mind. So that was a very good sanding for my brain yesterday. I guess
I love that.
Yeah, it gave me lots of moments, like you said, moments of freedom. I really felt free because I felt I was doing something that was showing results. I think we're frustrated when whatever we do is in vain,
Yeah.
And this is the frustration that comes up with what we're living currently. Whatever we do, we're vaccinated, still don't go out, and okay.
Yeah.
But there is a beautiful exercise in yoga which is called the wood chopper, the wood cutter. And I will not show you. Maybe one day we'll do it, because you really have to scream. So basically, you're standing up, you slightly bend your knees, you take this position with your arms up in the air, interlocking the fingers, and then you do a ha, as you bend forward as if you were cutting. And there's so much energy that is being released.
Oh, yeah.
I think depression is a repression, and all this tendency today, which is good in a way, because we want to become better people, we want to be positive, but we're kind of repressing certain aspects of ourselves. And as much as we want to believe ourselves being saints, we're not. And the human mind is still a mystery, and we still carry within us lots of there is a heritage there. We have some darker aspects of ourselves, whether we want to like it or not. And obviously they showed up during the history, and just roles are changing, and there's always going to be people in power who want to dominate, and who are going to be the oppressed and the repressed and whatever. So there is something in the human psyche that we have to acknowledge. I think I'd rather be in the truth than feel like how do you call it, a superficial state of joy. I'd rather acknowledge my own darker side and live with it than to pretend that I'm a pure and angelic person. No, I am. I think it's good because of this tendency where we're not going out, we're restricted from that. You're not supposed to do that. No, don't touch there. Don't do that. Don't say anything. Be nice. Like this society in which we live today, it feels more like, when we were children and we're criticizing a lot those times in the 70s that, oh my God, the parents were so harsh. But now as a society, we live like this. I'm not supposed to say anything. I'm not supposed to do anything. No, don't tap there. No, you're a bad person. Your account on Facebook gets cut off. We're being constantly punished for whatever we're saying, whatever we're doing. And when it comes out of that very narrow norm, and of course, we're like repressing and repressing and repressing. And that's the result of us feeling trapped. Whereas, okay, you cannot say it out loud and you cannot say it anymore on social media, whatever. Just go do the woodshop. You take it out like, it's very, 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 you feel free. Like every time I'm doing in a yoga class, after that, you experience a moment of total freedom when your mind is completely free. So if you have wood, cut wood, else, just do the exercise.
You know what? It's very interesting because everything you just said there as well, it reminded me of a caged animal in a zoo or something, how they must feel because, okay, I know it's an extreme. And we're not caged animals in a zoo, but it's still a restriction of their freedom. And God, we're going on to a different topic right there, I think. But I think it comes down to how can they be happy in that situation? What do they do to be happy in that situation, to live in the moment and well, yeah, I suppose they don't really, some of them must realise that they're caged, the more extreme ones, but maybe in a bigger zoo or, they've got their little bits around them that make them happy so that they're, more free. I'm talking about animals now. Oh my gosh, I'm on a tangent here, I'll tell you. I told you my brain wasn't working properly today. But no, it's just it all comes down to the same thing, isn't it? Because every living soul, and what you're saying as well, we are all human. Animals are animals. We are humans. We have sadness. We have happiness. We have peacefulness. We have joy. We have all the power to recreate everything, all the emotions. And that's a beautiful gift to be able to have those emotions, And as you were saying, Kate, as well, it's the numbness. It's that numbness that when we shut off the feelings, because we're too scared to even go back to look at it. But once you get that courage and that braveness to maybe just exactly, I love that analogy about taking a peek in the box in the house. I think that's a beautiful analogy because once you do that, then maybe things, and you're letting that little bit of light into the box. There's the light. You've got the answers to all your questions. That is it. You already know them and you're just so scared of going back there because of what might happen, rather than, that's why we can help. That's what we do is we're with you to guide you through, and you don't have to jump feet first into that box and,
that can do more harm than good. Absolutely.
Exactly. You can just look from a different angle and perspective and look down into the box and just notice what really is going on in there, what is really happening, not what you think was happening that you've shut off for so many years, but what is actually happening in that moment. And then from that perspective, you can then deal with things. And, I think that was just brilliant. What you both said was
when you mentioned sorry, Kate, go on.
No, go on.
When you mentioned, Danielle, the technique with the bringing back that feeling of freedom, another thing we can do when we do in NLP as a complementary exercise is to take the picture or the image that you formed of the prison. Because the imprisonment has a metaphor in your unconscious mind. So for whomever is listening now, and for you girls and for myself as well, what is the picture that comes to your mind as you think of this imprisonment that we're living these days? Do you have a picture of that? Of these restrictions, of this, you were mentioning, Danielle, earlier, the impossibility to go on with your shows and, the way it affects your work. how do you represent that in your mind? What comes to your mind?
It's almost like if I focus on that negative side of it, the restriction side of it, the thing that evokes in my head is like a straitjacket.
The straitjacket. Mm-hmm.
You can't move, and you can't do anything. You can't move, and you're wriggling to get out of a straitjacket. Oh God! Not that I've ever been in a straitjacket. Goodness gracious me! But that's kind of like it. It's.
But you see, this type of images have.
Yeah,
that's the image that your unconscious mind creates. That's why it's so heavy.
Powerful.
So when we do an NLP session, for those of you who are listening, want to work with any of us, this is the type of work we do. We take that picture, because imagine that this is the picture that your unconscious mind has of these restrictions. Imagine how harsh that is.
Yeah.
Imagine the level of stress. I mean, you never experienced, but imagine what an awful thing to feel in a straitjacket. This is so we take that image, we relax you, we put you into a very relaxed state of mind, maybe a little hypnotic state, and then we go and we change that picture. So what would be a resource for you, for instance, Danielle, that would be required for you to feel free from this straitjacket? The first thing that comes to your mind. Just allow your mind to bring forth any idea of
someone coming in and opening it for me.
All right. And who would that be? Who would that be? Not a doctor.
No. No.
Not the guy with the injection.
You can't see a doctor nowadays for love nor money. I'll tell you what, that's a whole different story.
That was just a joke.
No, I know. It would be some beautiful guardian angel just came down and just opened it and released. Mm-hmm. Just magically. Or I also have the image of Houdini getting out of the straitjacket, because that's what I'd be trying to do, become a Houdini. But yeah, no, I just feel like that if I was at my lowest ebb in a straitjacket, not that I will ever get to that point, please, universe, that my guardian angel would just come and release me. That's how I feel. And I don't have a face. I just have a warmth, like a glow with the figure. It's just like a figure, a glowy figure, just an image of someone just setting me free.
That's beautiful. So see, can you just ask your unconscious mind to connect these two together and allow this image of this savior, of this angel, to start working on releasing that straitjacket and allow you to feel free from this imprisonment. So this is just to give an example of how we working. I have another idea, but I let Kate because she wanted to say something and I don't have time after.
No, I've completely forgotten what it was, so keep going.
Go on, Susie.
Well, it was the exercise that I was mentioning to you earlier, and the other day we talked about the present moment bubble.
I love that. I love that.
Exercise that I like to do, and it works miracles all the time, because it creates some sort of space. Because we are overwhelmed by the past and by imagining certain future scenarios, because we do not have enough space around us that represents the present moment. And so it is a work that we do with a timeline. So I want both of you and those listening to try to picture for yourself right now, where would be the future and where would be the past if the timeline was represented by a line that was passing through your room. Can any of you share where you feel it? Yeah. So it's straight from
forward.
back.
Forward is future. Right behind me is the past.
For you the same? All right. And I want you to notice if there is any particular feeling that you're having right now in your body, whether it's positive or negative. Anything that is there now as a state.
Peaceful. I feel peaceful.
Yeah, I have it's kind of excited or stressful energy in my chest, in my heart.
It's funny you saying that. I feel the same. Yeah. And I want you to now bring forth a sort of a little thing that worries you, of whatever that is, something not too big, but something like tiny, something that has been preoccupying you for the last few days. Could be minor, or, you know, a little thing, or it could be about the restrictions, whatever that is. And I want you to notice, where is that in your body as a feeling? No. And as you are sitting there, for now, we don't do anything. We just welcome it, and we can say thank you for the body allowing us to acknowledge what's going on in this particular way. And then as you're sitting there with this particular sensation, remember where you placed and where the timeline was for you. And as you are yourself on the timeline, I want you to pay attention whether the timeline is touching your body. Let's say the past coming from all the way back towards you. Is it touching your body or not? And as you imagine the future ahead of you moving forward, is it going directly from your body or not? I mean, in other words, is the timeline going through your body, touching you or not? And perhaps one of you wants to answer, just to give our listeners some examples.
Me, yeah, me. No, it's not touching me. It's in front of me and behind me. I'm kind of in the middle.
You're in the middle, so it's not touching. How about you, Kate?
Yeah, mine was, the past was like going off my left shoulder, not touching. And the future, I think, was touching. And then as I realized it was not touching my left shoulder, I moved it down to my back. So it was kind of going through me now, through my chest.
I see.
Pulling me forwards now. Yeah.
I see. All right. So this is very good. Thank both of you. Thank the unconscious mind for these insights. And now what we're going to do, we're going to simply create, just for a few moments. Usually it's a longer exercise, but just for the time being, imagine that you could create for yourself now a personal space. How would it look like? How big would it be? Is it the shape of an egg? Is it a sphere? Is it a pyramid? Is it a cylinder? Whatever shape comes to your mind. And how big would it be? Is the length of an arm? How deep in front? How deep behind you? How deep above? I want you to create, and to ask your unconscious mind to create for you right now this present moment bubble. This place where you are yourself, by yourself, and you are safe, secure, and in that state of peace and freedom.
Yeah, I've got a pink sparkly bubble. It's about 1 meter all the way around me.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Like that.
Cool.
Mine's like a golden kind of glow, like a ready brick, just following the shape of my body, really, outside, like an aura.
Like an aura. Perfect. So now both of you and those listening, what I want you to continue doing is, as you are thinking and imagining the timeline, I want you to imagine this timeline as being as a tunnel that goes from the past, wherever you saw it, moving towards the future. And that this bubble, as big as you imagine it, is actually within this tunnel. So you are actually, the bubble is within the timeline, but it doesn't touch you. I want you to create this large motorway, this large highway, this large channel of the timeline, where this bubble is flowing freely. So wherever you do, whatever the past was, whatever the future is, you are always having this space of tranquility, of peace and freedom, and that you're being carried, transported, while you're feeling safe and free. And if the past was touching your body before, I want you to do the gesture, literally take it from there, Kate, from wherever it was, on your throat, on your shoulder, and literally move it to it's outside of the bubble. literally take it from there. We use your mind as well.
Okay.
So that the past touches the bubble. That's right. And that the future, it doesn't start on your body. It starts on the membrane of that bubble. So that you have that space for you where the past is not involved, where the future is not yet happening, and yet you're there, free and connected. And allow your unconscious mind to take these images and make them clearer and clearer, and make all the necessary adjustments in your body, in your mind, your conscious and unconscious mind, so that from now on, your reality is influenced by this picture. And when you know that it's ready, just take a deep breath, open your eyes, and come back to now.
Yeah, I like that.
That was lovely.
That was weird because I didn't really want to. The past wasn't attached. Then I attached it, and then I detached it, and I thought I don't want to not have my past there, but it wasn't. It was still there, but I just wasn't attached to it anymore. So that was interesting. So I thought it was going to be a bit weird and I would feel less grounded because I didn't have my past attached to me, but actually it was very freeing. Yeah, so there's definitely freedom with that. That's very powerful.
That was really.
I'm sorry, I did it quickly because I wanted to go because it's already 1 hour past away.
I know.
Usually those listening, if you ever want to work with us, these techniques, we do them thoroughly. We just want to, give examples and show ways that we're doing these things. But even just doing that,
it's powerful. Like, that's the thing. But it's also giving your subconscious mind something that it can do, that it can do right now. Yeah, that's the thing. So longer, great, but shorter, it was still beautifully visual and very powerful. I mean, I'm so grateful to you both. I think it was brilliant. You both are brilliant. Oh, lucky girl. I feel really calm, really relaxed. I always do every week. So on that note, I just hope that everybody out there that's listening or watching just recognises their freedom and the power of that freedom and how they can access that freedom, because your whole life can literally change once you allow yourself and know that you are worth it and take that time for yourself. So do what makes you feel good this weekend. Enjoy your beautiful weekend, and listen to our podcast on pain. So if anything comes up for you that might help you there, let's hope so. And another meditation is in that Kate's done. And enjoy your weekend. Have a beautiful time. And we will see you next week.
One last thought. I just had it now. If you choose freedom for yourself, you choose it for the rest of us. So every time you choose it for you.
Perfectly put.
Yeah. Spread it.
Yeah. Let's create a pandemic.
Yeah. Let's create our own bubble, all of us together. All right, guys. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was so beautiful. Oh, I loved that. Let me stop recording.